should be considered. And then finally, our city public works director, who is here with us tonight, has stated that capital investments and projections have all been based on lower density 85 zoning, which is currently in place. Adjusting the zoning would eventually require greater infrastructure investment and costs in this area, as well as change to the other plans currently in effect, such as the capital improvements in the master streets capital improvement plans. I will also note that the entire parcel has been applied to be rezoned. If rezoned, it would enable development and subdivision of the remainder of the parcel. It should be noted, though, that I've had a discussion about is there a possibility of rezoning a smaller portion of the site instead of just the 154 acres that is comprised by the two parcels. Based on state law, that is a possibility. All that state law requires is that basically the area be defined. The best way to do that is that's rezoned. So if a rezone, this is the key phrase, if a rezone were determined to be appropriate, I believe it's within the commission's authority that they could recommend not the entire site, but a smaller portion within it to be rezoned. However, the key issue on the table is not necessarily the size, it's the issue of is that appropriate and consistent with the general plan, the rezoning to 5 acres. So I just want to bring that up. That question was raised in a conversation between myself and the applicant after the application came in, which applied for the entire 154 acres. And so that was a question that I researched. Just wanted to bring that up because there's a possibility that issue will arise. But the issue, I'll put it this way, rather than quantity of property, is more appropriateness should this type of zoning apply to this property based on the information presented in the future land use map and the general plan. There were there were 3 public comments that were submitted. I provided those to the commission. You can choose to how I handle that. The commission has access to all of those public comments that were submitted by email. If you'd like, I can read them. They're rather brief, or you can read them however you'd like to handle them, or you don't need to read them. You can just summarize them. However you want to address that issue. So staff recommendation is that this area is designated with the rural residential 5 land use classification and general plan. And staff recommendation is that the RE20 zone applied for is not consistent with the land use classification shown on the future land use map of the general plan, which is clear in calling for zoning with a 5 acre minimum lot size in this area, which is in conflict with the 20,000 square foot lot size that would be permitted for single family residences in the proposed RE20 zone that's proposed as part of the application. The planning commission should determine whether the commission considers the RE20 zone compatible with the future land use map and the general plan and make a recommendation to the city council. So I know you didn't expect a vote tonight, but you got part 1 there. So those are my comments. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions from staff at this time? They will go ahead and ask the petitioner to come up, and we'll ask for a brief introduction and comments from staff. Projection.
In 2538 North Main in Brigham City. This will be a very abbreviated thing. So in your packet, the next to the last page is this narrative. This was submitted with the application in September. And just give a quick overview of what's really going on. Bill Snen is seeking to rezone a small portion of his property that borders as north of 4300 North Street. The property is currently zone 85. The southern lake portion encompassing the 18.5 acre lot is proposed to be zoned RE20. The biggest thing tonight, if you're going to approve this hopefully or deny it, please do so on the substantive intent and scope of what's going on. To put everybody's at ease, Brandon, could you call up the map?
Which map, the concept plan? with
Yeah.
The subdivision?
Okay, sorry, we were having some technical issues on YouTube. Let me see. I hope this doesn't,
Anyway, the seating, from day one, we've just been talking about a very small portion. We're not trying to rezone 170 acres, not at all. And I think that needs to be, that's evident from the submitted exhibit.
sorry, let me zoom out.
There you go, can you back it just a little bit?
Yes,
The proposed lots could be considered to be compatible with the existing developed lots along, can you go back a little bit more?
yes, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
Taking me, no, don't be sorry. I don't know why the computer's just being a little
Okay.
buggy tonight.
Again, the other thing, so what we're saying is, this is compatible with what's already out there. You look at the southwest quadrant there, you've got the existing, RE zone, RE20 zone houses. Then you go to the east of that, you can visually see the houses. What we would have liked to have done would have been to just develop the frontage lots. But I think the pattern is established that you don't want development fronting on 4300 north. You'd rather have it through an internal street. So that's the purpose of the internal street. So to the southwest, to the southeast, everything is RE20.
Sorry, I'm going.
Can you go back?
Yes, sorry, it's just having some issues.
So, the third paragraph we're getting to right now. Look at the map below this.
Right, zoom out more.
There you go. This is the source and protection zone for the Little Missouri. The red area is the critical area, the orange is the zone 2. The green area is zone 3, the 250-day travel period. It goes way up north of this. What I didn't want to be projected was some kind of inflammatory belief that we're going to be polluting the Little Missouri Spring. You can see.
Jim, there should be a pointer on
Just in that little area.
You just stand by, if you want to take the microphone.
Oh, this is
yeah,
wonderful too.
right here. There you go.
Second thing, look at how minor that area is. So we're staying outside the protection zone of the Little Missouri. We need to cut that lot back. Appreciate you saying it's about 200 square feet. This is very generalized mapping overline, but the intent, the two big things I want to make clear tonight are this. The intent is to be compatible with this and this. And we don't want to pollute that in any way. We certainly stay away from that. The rezone and development benefits the cities in various ways. Bill Sned owns to the center of the road. He would be effectuating a road dedication to the city and installing frontage improvements, which would reduce dust complaints along 4300 North Street. Drainage improvements would be installed. So the idea here is to be a win-win situation. This street would get improved. Street improvements and drainage improvements. And could be a benefit to the city, frankly. We all know that Skyline Drive has had complaints on it. Jumping back for just taking an overview, is seriously questionable whether 5-acre lots are economically feasible without an accompanying common sense rural road standard. Right now, your standards, all there is a 40-foot road and a 60-foot right of way with sidewalks. That doesn't make any sense. There's an incongruity between the road standard and the zoning. So I would encourage, if regardless, as a planning measure, it'd be healthy for the planning commission to adopt a rural road standard that would be feasible for a prominent area that is zoned in your city. In summary, the proposed rezone is compatible with the existing southerly development, is cognizant of the Little Missouri Spring Protection Area, and aids in the installation of 4300 North Street improvements. So,
Any questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you, Jim. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up for a public hearing, so we can hear comments. We'll try to keep it limited to a couple minutes each. And if we start hearing redundant things, we'll try to ask for new topics or items. I'll go ahead and open to the public hearing. When you come, please state your name and address for the record.
And Reese, 4215 North 900 West. Growing on this folder with me because this is the folder I've had over the 27 years that I've lived here in Pleasantville. And a lot of it is their comments about trying to always get this land rezoned. And my question to the city, or to you as commissioners, and I asked this one time to the city council when it was up to vote. Have any of you looked at the maps, the geological maps that I've done for Weaver County? They're done for the whole state. They have hazardous maps overlays. I'm sorry, I tried to get these blown up. And one time I had 5 of them that I left with the city council. But as you know, city council they change over and over and over and over. So I guess those are gone. I went down to the Weaver County building today, and some nice young man. I have the small one, and I have the number. He said, "How far do you want it blown up?" And I said, "How far can you go?" And he goes, "Well, I could do this far." And I went, "Okay." And he didn't charge me a dime last time he did. But this whole area up here is the area that we're always talking about. And I would encourage you all to go in and look at what hazards exist under the ground. We're always worried about what's on top of the ground, but we don't look at what's under the ground. And it's part of the hazardous maps, because there are a lot of hazards up there from previous earthquakes and whatnot. There's a reason we have 5 gravel pits that border there and Box Elder. The soil and the topography, which I had it's kind of tedious, I will admit. It would be tedious for you to do it, but it does section off areas, and it speaks to the soil. So it not only shows you what's underneath, and what's underneath is kind of scary. There are shelves that, yeah, there's land on top. You drill down so far and you're going into an abyss from what's left there. You've heard sinkholes in other states, so imagine up there what could exist. But it's very well done by people much smarter than I am, because that is not my area of expertise at all. But I would encourage you as a planning commission to go in and look at the maps, see what's up there, look at the difference in the soils. Because almost everything I get said very unstable soil, very unstable soil, very unstable soil. I kept trying to find an area that might be stable, but there wasn't a lot of land in that area that's stable ground. We all know that this watershed, we all know it's full of springs, and I just think that I also went back to my folder, and in 2012, when they were putting together the mountain residential zone, they spoke to the purpose of what it was, to ensure the protection of sensitive areas within the city and guide development that may occur in such a manner that intrusion into these areas will not create or add to the potential for flooding, erosion, and other environmental hazards, preserving the natural scenic beauty of the foothills. And then it talks about the public safety. And I'm probably gonna take more than 2 minutes, I'm sorry, but I don't think there are a lot of people who can take the time. I sold a piece of, I'm in real estate, I sold a piece of property to my youngest son. Just off of 40, just below 4,300 Caribou Court. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what happened there in that area. His lot happened to be the one in between the two homes that were built. The one home, is retaining, I think his name is Taylor. I don't know how he found me. He was looking for my son, he found me. His retaining wall came down. It had not been engineered. And, it was from the water. The water was, running between my son's lot and his lot. The city had to go in. Ben was gonna be here tonight, but he had another obligation, so he's so smart because he's in construction, I'm not. But, I asked him some details. I said, did the city rectify? He said they did. You're probably aware of it, Tyson. So they, according to him, they went down 15 feet. They had to cap off the spring because it was a steady flow. And, he said they ran that to another source. He said he hadn't heard as of late that, the problem that had been run into the storm drain. So I think part of it's done, not all of it's done. And that's below 4,300. We have the slope issue. And my thought is, we either stick to the plan. If they want to cluster, they can cluster, find stable land. But we can't open up we cannot rezone from A5 to half-acre lots on 2 sections. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else, please?
Who out of order? I'm in order.
We're open to public hearing, so there's no order. We're just listening to the comments from the general public at this time.
My name is William Snedden. I live at 3974 North, 800 West. I lived there for 44 years. I have 2 family members that live in Pleasant View. And we're not here to really see the water and the environment. That's our commitment. And this spring, we all saw the water flow and the road and everything that's all happened. And at that time, I thought, I've done this 3 times before and heard similar comments about what the environment is on the land and all that. And I'm assuring you that if you walk that land, you know that it's not any of the things that people describe. That throughout the pit to the west is an absolute cross section of what's going on. And houses are being built directly across the street from where we're talking about doing these 28 houses. So if you look, it's maybe 120 feet from where the current homes are existing. They are clustered down on 4,300. They're all right there. And so 4,300 is going to be a road one of these days. If everybody knows that we had our property sold at one time 2 years ago to the state and county and city to build that road. And since it got open, that's all changed. There's 4 parcels there. There's a 30-acre parcel, a 124-unit parcel, a 9-acre parcel, and a 6-acre parcel. And what I did is when the road, and everybody was complaining about the road and what was going on, and I went up there and I picked an area that I thought was absolutely void of all of the concerns that everybody had up there. It was close to the other houses that were built. There was no seismic problems. There was no soil problems. No water problems. The water problem we're talking about in Missouri for one of these lots instead of being impacted. There's actually a berm there, and the trees and everything are a long ways from where this is. So if there's 200 feet or whatever concern in that's not a concern. 4300 North Ranch is a private company, it belongs to our family. Our goal is to make this area of the city nicer than the existing east side. The development's gonna happen sometime, and we're just trying to find out, you know, what the feeling of the city is. And there's no market for those, for 5-acre homes. There's no way that's ever gonna be a thing that we can sell. That area is actually voided. Maybe one tree is up there in there, on the hill, and that's going down. The rezone would help your tax base. I know there's concern about the utilities up there. Other parcels on this land have been rezoned and built on. And what we're asking for is 10 20,000 square foot lots on to the east of 4300 west and 1100, sorry, 4300 east, 1100 west, and 8 lots to the west of it. There to be lined up with a road in between them. And this would take, these 18 lot roads and improvements would take about 19 acres of the 154 acres we're talking about. And what we're asking is to take that 19 acres and rezone it to R20, and just leave the rest of it for now alone at A5 and see what the future brings for everybody. I don't think that, I didn't see that picture too well of what our map is, but in no way did we ever request or intend to rezone all of that property as a R20. There was never any intent. We know what's up there, and there's the concerns that people have. Some are real, some are not real, but it was never our intent to do anything other than do those 18 homes right next to the 1100 West and right across the street from the existing homes. We appreciate your time, appreciate your.
Thank you for the comment. Anyone else would like to address the issue?
Nicholas Casella, owner of 4283 at the intersection of 1100. I want you guys to focus on a couple keywords that you just said. I got that there's only a few houses supposed to be going in there on a pretty good chunk of land, over almost 200 acres. But the 2 key words that he said were for now. For now. So obviously he's owned land for quite a while. Nothing against the individual I've ever met. I actually would love to meet you because I own the 2 lots that are currently not built on, that are at that intersection where he wants to put houses at. So the other 2 words I want to focus on are Pleasant View. Pleasant View. The reason I bought the first lot back in 09 was because we could see the mountains. We understood that there would be houses being built around us. I got that. We knew that. What we did not anticipate was any motion for 5-acre lots to go down to just less than half-acre lots at the intersection where my 2 lots are. So to say there's no market for 5-acre lots, please give me first dibs. I'd love to grab one. Please.
Now, let's make sure we address the commission.
Okay. Yeah, that's my apologies. Sorry. The city's going to develop regardless. We understand that. So if 89 is going to eventually someday, well past our time, connect to North Ogden, there's going to be an intersection. There's going to be a light right at the corner of my lot. And it's not just me that I'm concerned about, please. It's not. It's the intent of the general plan that he was just mentioning. It's the very, very factual and objective name in Pleasant View of preserving what that land is and should stay as, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I understand that. I'm adamantly opposed to any development on that property up there. Even if it is 5-acre lots and they eventually sell and houses go up, I'd much rather see that than half-acre lots. And to say that it's compatible with ours, I wholly disagree with that. Wholly disagree with that. The intent is for Pleasant View to remain somewhat rural. And that's exactly what that North 4300 is doing for our neighborhood right now. So I'm just asking, I'm adamantly opposed to it, and I would love to not see any development, but if it eventually does happen, please keep it at 5 acres. I'll probably be your first buyer.
Thank you. Other public comments?
Hey, my name is Cole Abbott, and I live just below Deer Crest, and I actually have property that's 300 feet away from the parcels. So I just put together, it'll take me about 2 minutes, little statement I'm just gonna read. So the US News ranked Utah the #1 state to live in their most recent Best States 2023 rankings. So those of us in this room, that's no surprise. Pleasant View is one of the crown jewels of northern Utah with a rich history. From the first store on the corner of Pleasant View Drive, 1000 West, built by Willard Cragen in 1878, to the 1952 dedication of the historic Red Church on 900 West, which was constructed using salvaged building materials and financed by members of this community. Many of the original Pleasant View families still live here today: the Cragen, the Maycox, Reese, Bailey, and others. All these families cultivated a community where their posterity wanted to stay and outsiders wanted to join. Governor Spencer Cox, a couple months ago, he made the point referring to Utah cities and their development. He said, you have to find more supply and you have to do it quicker. We have areas in our city that offer the supply while maintaining the beauty. The proposed half-acre lots will only add to, not subtract from our great city. I looked at the cove in North Ogden. I think it's amazing. And most of that area is composed of half-acre lots. I believe we have an opportunity here to surpass that, surpass the cove in function and beauty. I've heard people on the hill living in beautiful homes or on half-acre lots oppose the idea of development in their area. They like fields and wildlife. To me, if you were able to find your dream home in this area and supply is still available, the same dream should be afforded to others who want to add to this community. Lastly, I think it's inevitable. It's already been said. It's the land we're discussing north of 4300. Someday it's going to be developed. And I think while you're on the planning commission, I think now you can continue to strengthen the case for Utah being ranked #1, and by furthering the well-planned development for our crown jewel. Same type of progression and development started by the original family 150 years ago. So that's my ask. I think it is inevitable. I think it's a beautiful area. And I think people in this community and others should be able to enjoy this beautiful area. I mean, beautiful views everywhere. Even if you do have homes going up, that's part of life. I think the gentleman earlier stated that he knows development's going to happen. So that's all I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Any other people, any other comments from the public at this time?
Person who owns 1106 West 4050 North of Pleasant View, and everyone probably knows I can't pass up an opportunity to stand up and express my opinion on this matter. But I would like to say one thing that I've been thinking about a lot. Back in the early 80s, when we had a ton of flooding here in Pleasant View, 1100 West was a major flood corridor. I mean, that was just the place that flooded in Pleasant View. We used to ride tubes down when I was a kid. And if you notice now, since we put Deer Crest in, and since we put Harris Hills in, and since the, I don't remember the other subdivision, sorry, I didn't do it, so I don't remember it, on the corner. What's the name of it?
I wouldn't know this word.
Yeah. But since that's gone in, the flooding isn't down on 1100 below the canal anymore. Because we put utilities in place to stop it. And so if you look at development, and I've heard a lot about sensitive lands and dangerous places, but I tell you that the landowner will definitely be the first person to go up there and actually not Google something and see what it is. The landowner will go there, hire the correct engineers, do what he needs to do to make sure that it's safe and that the correct measures are reached. And it
is put in as it should be, so it's not a danger. And it's not a Google search, it's an actual boots on the ground study. So that's, I just don't see how this can keep. I mean, if 5 acre zone in Pleasant View is saying, keep out, we don't want you here. I mean, it just is, because it's, I had dreams of my kids moving in land that I love and would like them to be neighbors, but it just, as this progresses, it just gets less and less able to do that. So I think that, as it was said before, this piece will develop eventually, one way or another, it will develop. And right now, developing it in a manner that solves dust issues, solves water flow issues, solves a whole plethora of issues that are now concerning neighbors right below it. It just makes sense to rezone this. Thank you.
Justin Baker, 1170 West, 4200 North. I live in Deer Crest, just below the proposed area. I'm not a big fan of a lot of traffic, big roads, busy roads. However, I'm not a big proponent of telling people what they can or can't do with their property. I really have no right to say I don't want any further expansion because my house is less than 2 years old. The people down below the canal probably never wanted to see us. And the people below them never wanted to see them. The people below them never wanted to see them. You know, we can go on and on and on. All of us came, nobody was here when Pleasant View was established, maybe some grandparents or something, but I would rather be a part of a development and be a part of helping maybe design the development rather than just saying no, because eventually what happens is somebody with big pockets, lots of money, come in and then they just bulldoze their way and they build, you know, 4 million houses on a piece of property and whatever, you know what I mean? We've all seen it. We saw it in Utah or Ogden Valley up here, just bulldoze 325 houses on 20 acres. That's a lot. I would rather have somebody from the community, in the community, try to develop something that is cohesive with the surrounding areas. Well, having said that, I'm good with an RE20. I would definitely not want to see anything less than an RE20. However, you know, I guess the only way to stop it is if you can purchase it, but I don't have, you know, upward of $18 million to buy it, or I would and just put my own house up there. So anyway, Pleasant View, you know, to add to what I just said, and it really doesn't matter, but I was never going to come to Pleasant View. I thought it was way too far north. It was totally out of my zone. I wasn't coming to North Ogden. I wasn't coming this far. I came from Riverdale. But when I came here, I fell in love with it. I think it's beautiful. It's got a pleasant view, like every night. It's beautiful. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'd like my kids to stick around, and I've got 8 of them, so. The house, thank you for your comment.
Jill Nixon, 4247 North, my name is Chris. For the record, I've spent more time on this land than anybody in this room. I walked that hill for 50 years, daily until they fixed it. And what I've got to say is really silly because you already know all the negatives on developing this or changing the zone. But I've noticed a trend lately that just boggles my mind. This land that they're talking about is every subdivision that has gone in this area in the last few years has been on a slope. It has to be the top of this. They cut straight in, So they have to build retaining walls as high as the houses. And then across the street, the houses are built on 15 feet of fill. And another retaining wall. And since that seems to be the trend, I suspect that that's what they're going to do up there. Yeah, it's pure insanity. For 30 years, I worked on preparing Pleasant View for earthquake. Save it for knowing what could happen. And one of the huge dangers is flying objects. If you think the retaining wall that came down on Airport with running water was significant, have that wall fly at that house. And that's what it is all along there and in other places in the new developments. I say, leave it alone. Don't start a precedent, don't change the, don't lower the 5 acre requirement and make it so that everybody else wants to.
Thank you.
I'm Jonathan Perez. We're in this ugly thing. Today's my day 6, so I shouldn't be contagious, but out of respect, I wanted to wear it. I told my wife, let's move to the mountains so we don't flood. And I own the property where the retaining wall fell, and we have had constant water since March of last year. It's still running, we still have a problem, and I still don't have a wall permit for the wall. We started the process back in March. So I'm not for or against this this proposal, but I think what's at play more is the character of the city and what kind of makes us unique from all the places. I'm not anti-progress or growth, but going down the hill in 1100 with the traffic we have now is scary with the snow. It's scary for me to let my wife go down the hill. We have very good plows in place, but I don't think they're enough. We have very good new vehicles, and it's scary. I see a lot of teenagers drive down that hill with snow, and it's scary for my family. I would say that a few of the things need to be in place before we move into so many lots. Again, I don't have anything against growth, anything like that, but I believe there has to be alternative routes for contractors to move in and out of that place safer. And the issue with water is a real thing. It may look like snow melting from here, but over at my house, it's a river, and it has not stopped. Again, I'm not for or against this, but just wanted you guys to consider my 2 cents. Thank you. Thank you.
And after this, we'll just have we'll try to limit it to anybody that has anything that's different and comments.
Joanna Christopher, 4244 North 500. That I wasn't going to get up and talk tonight. But I'm not against development above 4,300. They can cluster up there if they want to. But what I want to do is talk to you as the planning commission. We have ordinances in place. Respect them. We have land use plans and programs in place. Respect them, please. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? If not been addressed.
I'm Chad Jones. I live in far west actually, but I grew up here in Pleasant View. And we own 160 acres above this, where this project is. And it's been really interesting all the time, and we enjoyed that. We have a few cattle and some horses, and it's our little ranch. And changing things is something that we have been nervous about and wishes it wouldn't happen, but recognize that it will. And then we need to change some of the things that we've been able to do. As far as runoff and the different things that have happened, this spring, this winter was just unbelievable. As each of you know, some of the road going up onto our place is kind of cut down in through some of the hills. And so with the wind and the snow, we had snow drifts this high. I had to hire a guy with a backhoe to come through and dig that because I couldn't even get up there with my tractor with chains on it. It was unbelievable. And I think that's part of the reason that we've had these water problems that we got now is because of the unbelievable winter that we had and all that water that's gone into the ground and everything. I've spent countless hours filling up the ruts and there were ruts that were this deep where the water had washed up there. And with my tractor and the blade on it, I don't know how many hours I spent up there trying to do it. But recognizing that all of these developments need to have those things in place for the water to go. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that needs to be discussed. I don't know what the plan is for water supply, if there's enough, that the city has enough water to go ahead and have this development. If it has, great. And I'm just fine with it. It will actually help add a little bit of extra, a little bit better access to our property up there as some roads get built up that way. And I'm all for that because I've got a half a mile of road that I plow with my tractor all winter long to get up there and feed cows and horses. And so it's a big deal for me. And it would be a benefit in so many ways, but then there's other things that I wouldn't be too happy about. But that's my comment. Thank you. Thank you.
So Adam Crowder, 4278 Highland Meadow Court. I live right across 4300 from this property. I have mixed emotions about it because if you ask me if I want a house staring down into my backyard, I don't want it. But I think that there's got to be more zoning for A20, and I think that's a great property for it. All of the issues of the retaining walls and the water, if things are engineered right and done right, we can mitigate those issues. It's up to the city to enforce the engineering standards. I've lived in 4 different houses in Pleasant View. Every subdivision that I've lived in has had water issues. It's just the nature of Pleasant View and the hillside. My big concerns are not for this meeting. 4,300 is a big concern of mine. The dust is terrible. Can't keep it open. Other than that, I believe that I don't love the design of the subdivision, but I'm for design.
All right, well, let's take a quick minute. I'm not from your city. I'm Mike Jensen from Brigham City, 538 North Main. I actually work for the developer. One thing that's been brought up is nobody's really talked about the cost of what it costs for a 5-acre lot. Roads used to be about $350 to $400 per linear foot to build. How do cities get new roads? It doesn't come from tax base. It comes from a developer coming in to put a new road, place a trail in a new area. How are you going to pay for 4,300? It's gonna be an extremely expensive road because it's extra wide. It's probably the cost of roads now are exceeding $500 per linear foot. Take that, multiply that by a 5-acre lot, you have 300 foot of frontage on a 5-acre lot. That's a whole lot of money to spend for improvement. And then the city's gonna have to own and maintain that road, and the tax base you get from a 5-acre lot is not gonna cover the maintenance to plow and maintain that road. So 5-acre zoning, in my opinion, is kind of, well, it's great in theory, but in practicality, doesn't work.
Rexton, 4130 Alder Creek Drive. I would invite you guys to, some of the concerns that I've brought up tonight, I don't know how many of you guys actually have lots up there. It's probably one of the partially classified part of the land up in Pleasant View. I mean, I don't know what people are talking about, so again, I encourage all of you guys, full disclosure on part one of 4300. So I would encourage all of you to spend some time, take a walk up there, slow. As far as the other concerns, as far as seismic and liquefaction or, problems with the sand, as far as I know, that study that was done was a narrative. It wasn't an actual geotech study. I don't think any test holes or anything covered in our property. One of probably the action items for us is to probably do an official geotech study up there and figure out what's going on. I lived in Pleasant View 45 years. I just love to hear that, I moved here, I don't want anybody else. Guess what? I used to ride my motorbike. I've been here 45 years. I used to ride a motorcycle over there. That, without that being, that used to be, Reagan's Cherry Orchard, and, there, used to be a pit for the we bikes. And so, yeah, I didn't want people here also, and I'm sure the zoning had to, been changed at some point over there. And so without that zone change, people would not be able to build the homes over there. I have children too. I mean, Pleasant View is a beautiful place. That's why I've lived here my whole life. That's why, I've got 2 other family members that live in Pleasant View. We want to be good neighbors to Pleasant View. But, it also, at some point, the land's going to be developed, and, I think having a plan in place, a big plan in place, we can, mitigate the concerns that the citizens might have. And so,
Thank you. I will ask for any others, but we'll try to limit it to if there's any different comments we've not heard. We have a lot of good comments tonight.
It's Ann Harrington. I live in the Lowlands, 3256 North, 750 West. So my concern, I'm not opposed to developing either, but I am opposed to developing smaller lots here because of the water recharge and how it affects our wells and how it affects the drinking water for all the rest of us that are downstream. So that's one thing that I would really like to take into consideration. I know this is just like a small pocket, but then I feel like this half-acre pocket leads to more half-acre pockets, leads to more half-acre pockets. So that's the one concern I have is just the water recharge for us downstream. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know my comments. If I had.
Right after the last one, and then we took you.
Well, that's where I'll join the party. Another thing that as Sarah Gary, 930 West 35. I've also lived here my entire life and used to get the side to the 2 down the hills and slow down the canal and grab the bar before you go down the chute, otherwise you're dead. So anyway, some of the things that I'm, really concerned about too with working on our adequate facilities and working on our capital facilities plan is we literally don't have the infrastructure to handle more dense development on the site. And I know the developer comes in and they pay for what happens. I'm not opposed to development right now. You can develop that property. You can cluster develop it and make it, still have the integrity of A5 and have the open space, and then you have your smaller cluster area. And so it's cheaper for the developer, and it's actually cheaper for the city to maintain, but you still have the same integrity with the open space to protect the 11,000 people who've already lived here. That's the biggest thing here to me, is that it's not just about the person who wants to develop. It's about the people who live here too. and the generations to come. We're talking 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. And we do not have the money or the infrastructure to handle half-acre lots of about 4,300 north, all the way up. Because if you do it here, you'll do it everywhere else. That's just the nature of development. That's what happens. We don't have the sewer, the stormwater, any of it, any other way to handle that type of capacity. And inevitably, it's the residents who end up paying for it after development is done. Thank you.
In light of, I think we skipped opening an official open hearing, public hearing. I would like to take a motion that we open and close public hearing.
I got you. A motion that we open and close a public hearing.
Ingrid's made a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
A second. All in favor, say aye. I still do it, it's still working. I know I've done it for a few years or so. First of all, I'd like to thank all those who showed up tonight, for the public comment. It means a lot to the staff. People are still, it's important enough to have this sort of public. One of the things we would like to strongly encourage is everybody to join us in all of us steps, not just tonight, when I have my part, but as the future land use maps and the general plan maps, and some of us, we really encourage all of the citizens to come and help get the voices heard, because it's not just a handful this time, but they help us shape what we use to make our decisions, besides the voice of the people. I wrote a comment down here that actually someone talked about later was, I always remember we have a councilman that always says, I wish that they'd shut the door behind me when I moved in. And so I've heard him say that several times, and I'm sure there's lots of us over the years that thought that same thing. But growth is important for the city, but it's also important we do it in a meaningful way and follow general plan, and that's why I took it. There were 3 comments that made from the public that we read provided for us. One of them was a comment that said, this isn't the time to review it. We need to if it's a petition before us, but the time to review it is when all of the citizens get a chance to look at the future land use map and the general plan. That was a great comment, but I also former councilman and the former commissioner. One of the other gentlemen made the comment and said he'd like to be part of the budget plan, the plan for designing locations and how we plan the future. I would strongly encourage that you come and help us develop, help us decide what works best in not just that area on the hill, but several areas, pockets throughout all of Pleasant. You know, what is the best in the cluster of the smaller developments of large? So we're going to strongly encourage people, please keep taking part of that. I'm going to turn in a second to our public works person, Tyson. There was a comment made in our packet that, you know, we haven't budgeted for the infrastructure, what the impact of the infrastructure of a big change like that would be to us. I thought we need to address that.
So all of your utilities, your stormwater, sewer, water, culinary, your roads, all of those are based off of your future land use maps, your zoning maps. We take the units associated with each zone assigned for an area, and that's how we base our calculations for your sewer main size downstream. All your sewage up top has to make it down to the collection mains for the sewer district. Your capacity issues always happen down where it flattens out. It's not going to happen on 800 wet or 500 or 11. It's going to happen down when you hit the flats and everything levels out. That's where you're going to identify that you need to upsize those mains. So all of those plans are based off of all of your zoning. So if you're going to take a large area, most zoning I've been part of is small areas, you know, A2 down in the middle of all your R820. Most of those you're going from 2 connections to 4 isn't going to make a significant difference. But you take this large of a piece and switch from A5 to the RE20. It's obviously a significant change in all of those plans. So if something like that was to happen, that was the decision. But I guess it's my part, I would want to go and initiate reviewing those plans almost immediately for that particular area. The big part with your source protection that everybody's referencing is one of the adopted parts in your source protection is that you're gonna minimize hazards with zoning, and that's where a lot of that zoning lower density comes from. It's not that you're all the protections you're gonna deal with in there are gonna happen, whether it's A5 or A20 regardless, and that's the same for most of what everyone's speaking to with the hazard. The hazards will all have to be identified and evaluated, whether it's any of those.
Thank you. Just a quick comment and we'll open the discussion. Just a reminder, there has been talk of specific spots for development. We're not looking at a development plan at this time. We're only looking at a possible rezone from the A5 zone to the RE20. So we'll try to keep it to that part of the discussion. With that said, last questions for staff, the petitioner, or discussion among yourself.
Just a few comments. I drove all of these sites we're looking at during the afternoon today, and 4300 North is essentially a pothole. You can't get from there over to 900 West. You can't get off to the west down to 89. Improving the road in front of 9 lots that would front 4300 North is not going to create another way off that hillside. The only way off that hillside is down 1100 West, which is already congested and sharp and steep in the snowfall. To me, we amended the general plan in 2017. That's only 6 years ago. You're really not talking about a zone change tonight. You're really talking about a general plan amendment. And that's really what should be done. You're putting the cart before the horse to change the zoning in contradiction to the existing general plan. Thank you.
Earlier, I had quite a discussion when we were talking about the drive aisle and the access. And it was kind of unclear what constitutes the drive aisle or the access in regards to the landscape and the berm, right? And it was a little ambiguous. This is very clear cut to me because we've got a general plan. We've got a future land use plan. We're not elected officials, but we are appointed. And we're appointed to represent the citizens. The citizens come together and help determine the general land use and the general plan. So tonight, we are looking at overturning what our citizens have said they desired in the city. And until I know from citizens that they are ready, that they want something to be overturned, I feel that I'm here to represent them. And so for me, this is pretty clear cut. We've got the general land use now. A couple of other things, when Reed said, have you looked at maps? I actually have looked at the maps. In 2016, I think it was, the city spent like $30,000 to do a sensitive land study. And when you look at that, we're dealing with sensitive lands. And that doesn't mean development can take place. I would actually like to see the hillside developed, but I would like to see it developed in what it's zoned for and zoned appropriately. And the other thing that was really a red flag to me was when Mr. Jones was talking about the snow removal. and the big drifts and how bad it was to even get up there. And I'm like, okay, our budget, everything is based off of the land use map, right? And our infrastructure. So, if he's having all this problem getting up to his property because of snow removal, and we don't have the budget, then, you know, why would we change something when it doesn't correspond with the land use map or the general plan? So I'm just speaking out. I think it's pretty clear cut for me. I would like to see it developed. I don't see any reason why it can't be developed. It allows for clustering. That doesn't take, you know, one home on 5 acres spread all over the hill. They can go and find areas that are appropriate to build and cluster homes. Yeah.
Well, my question was, is maybe Tyson can answer this, is what is this requirement for secondary water? There's a requirement coming that all houses have to have secondary water, right?
So we already have that.
Right. So can we even get secondary water up there?
I don't know that. That would get into Pine View, and we usually don't speak for their serviceability. So I've heard that there's complications, but usually that can be addressed with money.
Yeah. I mean, and not, I mean, my only thought was is that if it can't even be serviced, then what's the point of rezoning? But
No, I think you're right. But I would assume the developer would be aware of knowing that ordinance exists, but they would have to be able to provide secondary water from another Pine View option. Make that work with them. Whether it's an A5. They would have to make that.
my other comment was, I know we always lump in development with rezone, which really are two separate things, right? And I mean, if the commission recommended a rezone, approval for a rezone, Mr. Stetton and Jim, you still have to go through the full subdivision process, which would mean if there are issues, then it either you have to modify, you have to do something different, correct? I mean, yeah.
No, they would have to, and that's what I was stating with any of the challenges. That part of
I mean, if they were to wanted to put in enough houses that cause problems for me down in the lower lands, the lower lands, you know, and then you got an upsize the sewer down there. Is that the developer pay for that, or?
some of that would be
Impact fees?
Impact fees, yeah, those would come into play. It would definitely speed up all of your processes for where you're at with those capital facility plans, and probably shift projects. And they're not simple plans, and so limited staffing, that part of the burden you're not going to get. Impact fees aren't going to pay for that. I guess your future tax payers and rate payers would, to some degree, I guess, paying for the time and the cost of those. They're generally the 20,000, depending on how deep you're getting into redesigning your plans.
I probably have more, but go ahead.
I think we've heard reasonable thoughts on both sides of the issue tonight. But what this really comes down to is what Commissioner Gosar already said, the general plan is very clear. And this is a step ahead of where they need to be if they're looking to actually get this in place. They need to amend the general plan, make that proposal. At the end of the day, the city council will make this decision. But I don't believe that we as a planning commission have the direction based on what general plan tells us. To rezone it, so those are my thoughts, it's just. And there's another process if they choose to take that step to, they do that.
Would someone like to make a motion? From Denver, we have three options that we can make. We are a recommendation by to the city council.
I'll make a motion. I would make a motion that we recommend to the city council that they deny consideration of the rezone of the property out of Lebanon West 43.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Parker. We have a second. Second. David. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we have one dissenting, by Commissioner, Jeff. Let's go ahead and we will move. Six, would we like to take a 5-minute, 7-minute break? I hope anybody that's here for the general plan amendment, master streets will bear with us for just a few minutes. Thank you for all of those being in attendance tonight. We'll take 5 minutes to reset. What's that? Oh, yeah, that's right there.
Hey, Carla, how are you?
No, neither of them. These are master plan, and this is a launch fee on the launch highway, yeah. And then, maybe I never need bank. This one, well, you're fine, applicable, but, that's the property, those questions came up, and we just don't have it fully vetted, we have another part. So there's nothing, I being considered. No, it's just and something that gets out of the rest of the we like to this. Not like different networks. Never been
You're welcome to stay, but
yeah. Appreciate you so much, and thanks for getting all of that.
Yeah, that's all I can take, guys. So I got a meeting.
Yes. Can we?
What about? Well.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're fine. I'm sorry. You're just taking some ibuprofen.
Recording.
Oh, you know what? We're not, we're on YouTube, so it's recording there. Do you want me to stop the live stream?
No. Oh, no, I'll just- Since we're not recording there.
Sorry, and I'm sorry, we probably should be, but it is on YouTube.
It's still being.
We are on live stream. Do you want me to turn it off right now?
All right, we're gonna ask, community convene here. So we'll have the conversation be taken outside, please. And we'll go ahead and get ourselves started. Thank you for those, that stayed with us this morning. We'd like to go ahead and move to item 4B, our full general plan amendment. Amending the master plan. Go ahead and we'll start with the presentation.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna readjust the microphone, please. Okay, so let me screen share my memo. Thanks for uploading this, Brandon. I know, it did get a little bit quieter, Commissioner. So before you this evening is a proposal for a general plan amendment to our master street plan. And you all may recall back in the spring, we went through an exercise and vetted through the entirety of our master street plan to ensure what our practice was and what we were doing was compliant with our general approach. In doing so, we had some correspondence with the developers where this parcel is located. There wasn't any expressed interest at that time to look at modifying our master plan with regards to the city's general plan. I think that there has been some interest from them to do something different, but there has been no formal direction on that. They were not involved in the process prior, but in a good faith effort to try to work with the development group, we're putting forth this proposal. This is something that city staff is comfortable in looking at and adjusting, just with having some type of adequate and safe traffic flow as per our agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT. We typically had some type of connecting corridor parallel to, but not necessarily having to be parallel to, but just having connections to all of the portions of the properties, cross connections that are not all off of 89. And the main reasoning for that with UDOT is they don't want every single parcel on Highway 89 to have its own driveway because it would impede traffic flow and safety. And so with that, in reviewing this with staff, we are comfortable with some modifications to what is currently in our general plan, which includes the master street plan. And in looking at extending the roadway, because there already is a roadway in existence at Stonefield Road, this would be a continuation of that right-of-way width of 70 feet. I think the road width itself is about 50 or 55 feet pre-established, and extending that forward into 89. And so if you see here on the map, and I can zoom in on that a little bit more, maybe. We have the roadway currently on our map extends and punches directly through this parcel and this parcel. There's actually 3 parcels that punches through up into Capstone Way. So the proposal would be a modification because the parcel here to the north already has an access point off of Capstone Way, and the parcel down to the south of this property in question has access off of Stonefield Way, but because city streets are contiguous and have some form of connection, the proposal would be a continuation of this over here and then across from 1640 as per typical UDOT recommendations to have those directly across from the other side. So I don't know if there's any questions that the commissioners have of me this evening, but this is a staff initiated proposal in an effort to work with a development group who have concerns about a parallel road intersecting the entirety of this property because it would impede their goals and desires with development on this piece.
Well, and just clarification real quick.
Yes.
This is the, is that correct?
No, so we're looking at changing the current map has a roadway that extends from here to here. So it's contiguous from this Stonefield Way up until hitting Capstone Way. The proposal is a modification to the general plan to allow the roadway to veer to the east, northeast, and this road is always so fun with directional descriptions, but to the northeast, and then ultimately end at Highway 89, but will allow for the completion of the road. As of current, the road does stop right here prior to the property to the north of Stonefield Way. And so this would again just allow for the completion of that road without further impeding and completely dissecting the parcels here. Because with the UDOT corridor agreement, as long as there's access points onto the parcels, that would be sufficient. And we have worked along this corridor, as it is a long, complex corridor, with other property owners to try to work through different challenging circumstances and to still honor the corridor agreement, to honor the general plan. And that's what we're proposing before you this evening.
Any question for staff?
Can we clarify, because we've talked about the railroad crossings quite a lot in the previous meeting, does Stonefield Way, is that able to cross over the railroad, or is that going to stop at the railroad? So
in working with our transportation master plan consultants, and that'll be coming forward to planning commission soon, so we'll have another fun meeting. We're anticipating that we'll only be able to get one rail crossing, and we'll have to close some of the existing crossings. And so these areas that are identified here do not include that crossing. If I scroll down, we actually have, let me see if I can zoom in on this. This red crossing is what we've identified as the likely crossing that we'll be able to utilize because again, the difficulty of getting that rail crossing in place is extraordinarily challenging. And so we're anticipating only being able to have one full crossing. And so you'll notice Skyline Drive coming down, cutting around to this roundabout and then over. And then that's where the location of the rail crossing would be, and then punching over. And so the remainder of what's on the map will unfortunately be eliminated. The other thing that's probably important to note, when looking at the corridor agreement with UDOT, there are signalized intersections that are planned here, but there is a lot of discretionary authority of UDOT. And so even if these are on the map, that doesn't guarantee their future existence. So just something to keep in mind.
Mhm. Well, not having the railroad crossing will probably reduce the traffic in that immediate area.
It may very well. And this, obviously, where the rail crossings are, there really isn't a major impact on the parcels that we're looking at here, because it would be the elimination of this street on this parcel directly to the northeast, and then the one north of that as well.
Any questions for staff? We can open this to a public hearing. Do we have a motion open? Motion open. Second. Second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now public hearing. Any comments from the public?
And our commenters do have a short presentation. I emailed that out to you all in advance, just so you'd have that. And I can pull that up.
We really appreciate your time this evening, and we intend to be brief. I'm sure.
You stood out.
I know, they're very brave.
So yes, thank you very much. We're grateful for staff, the opportunity to do staff. So my name is Jason Bull. I'm with Stella and Wilmer. I'm an urban planner. With Stella and Wilmer. I'm Johnny McVad. I'm with Carol Lamb with the developer. So we just had a couple slides to talk about. We're grateful that you're taking this item up and willing to look at it. Can I control it, or?
I'm sorry, I'll control it. Just
Okay.
so if you can just,
Go ahead, you can go ahead.
let me know in advance. I'm sorry.
So, it's a process that you guys have undertaken before, in recent times. You look at this corridor and the challenges it faces, with the rail line, as well as Highway 89. The Boyer project had a similar, the next slide, was in a similar situation where, a road bisected it. It makes it difficult to develop. Mr. Noved, as he identified, they've identified this property because it has value, because the rail, not only Highway 89 access, but also because of the rails. And when you put a road through the middle of the property, it really eliminates the ability to develop in a meaningful way, especially customers. And so this is just an example that you guys have looked at previously with Boyer, 2017. You can see that it bisected. Major roads bisecting. And you can go on to the next one, and actually the next one. So, and then in 2023, so earlier this year, on the left, you see the Boyer project. The road that was bisecting it, was converted to, identified as an intermediate road, and moved to the east side, or the west side of the parcel. And then on the right is the parcel. And so if you go to the next one, just kind of provide some context. So as I mentioned before, the railroad is valuable. We have an approved rail spur to the property. We have approved access with UDOT. We've been working diligently to get the approvals in place, including the staff, to get the approvals in place to develop the property. Our concerns with requiring a road through the middle were the distance is 200 feet to the north, and it's 105 feet to the south. And so requiring a road in the middle of the property that goes nowhere, obviously, we understand the future needs and future demands, where UDOT understood and provided improvements for an access point. We think that the proposal to turn the road east and access 89 here, it really does make sense. One of the things that I guess we'd like to talk to you about, so we're in agreement with staff as far as the alignment. One of our concerns is the width of the right of way. The right of way to the south is only 50 feet. And so you're going to have 100 feet to go from 50 feet to 70. And if you could go to the next slide,
the slide after.
This one?
Yep, perfect. So, and this alignment, just so you're aware, it's something that we've been in talks with staff about. And, staff was agreeable, granted, it's been a year and a half, but was agreeable with 30-foot, accesses. And that's actually what UDOT approved our access at as well. They required us to provide that 30-foot access so that there could be that future connection. So, again, we are in agreement with the modification and alignment. We just have concerns with requiring it to be 70 feet, when there isn't existing 70 feet to connect to. When it's been analyzed and looked at, that a smaller, cross section would work. And so that's ultimately our ask this evening, is that we recommend, realigning it, but also including that, that the right of way width be reduced from the 70 feet. I think that's the best.
That one's too soon.
Yeah, we can skip those. We're good. We're done.
Okay.
Any questions for us?
I guess.
Not a petitioner, no, public comment, yeah.
Affected entity.
What width are you recommending?
I mean, ideally, we're comfortable with the 30 foot. That's what our site plan was done. That's where we had, reached agreement. You know,
That's how big of a parcel?
Well, I mean, it is a 30-foot access,
Here, I can find the parcel size if
yeah,
that's
it's just
helpful.
over 5 acres.
Okay.
So again, that's what UDOT had looked at, UDOT had recommended for that access.
50 or asphalt width, stone fill,
50 is the right way.
pretty sure stone fill.
That's what our engineers. made before.
Yeah, to the south, it's 50 feet.
So, one other clarification, plan that was just shown. What was shown was, an access easement, whereas the general plan was addressing, publicly dedicated road. So significant difference there. Just want to be clear that even if there's a change to the general plan, ultimately adopted by the, city council, what's being discussed presently, what you and they are considering is not a change to whether the road is required to be publicly dedicated or not, but whether that the alignment or the route of that road. So.
And just to further clarify, absolutely right. It would be a public easement that is required from UDOT. That was UDOT's requirements, that is a public easement.
Thank you.
Just to, the acreage is 6.6 acres, so very ballpark, yeah. And I don't know from the developer standpoint, if there is issue, if that is a public road or if there's that stronger desire to have that public access easement.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the main concern really is the width, and the impact that we have, on the right of way. I think we're willing to work with the city, in either way. You know, if it is, a dedicated right of way, there may need to be conversations about how it's accessed, and curb cuts as it's designed. I mean, that's where, we've got, traffic coming in, and so, I mean, I think we're open to further conversations.
The railroad and the truck plaza, where the access is, if you have curb and everything, there's nowhere to have trucks pull in and out. So that's part of the issue with the.
Well, and part of the challenge in speaking with our engineer, I guess, is for the planning commission's edification. With the curvature that we're proposing, because we're not doing a straight road, if you're having large trucks travel on that curvature, the greater width is important. So that, just from that perspective, but no, thank you so much, gentlemen, for waiting through tonight. Sorry, we didn't anticipate that one.
So I was gonna say, is there any other public hearing and, motion? We have a motion by Steve, public hearing in a second. Second. Thanks, got a second by Sean. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Open for consideration, comment, and discussion.
Like to talk about the width, just because I thought 30-foot width allows ingress and egress. But in the industrial area, you're looking at a lot of everything, deliveries, trucks, down line. I've seen them come around like here where cars have literally had to back up to allow the trucks through. So is there a standard width in industrial areas that we should be looking at?
And I'm not certain on that. I just, again, had the dialogue with our engineer and she'd recommended firstly, because Stonefield Way is already and it sounds like it's something we'd need to talk through or work through, but from our records, it shows it as a 70-foot right of way total. I'm not sure what the surface width is, and I haven't gone out and personally measured it.
30 and 50 is pretty narrow.
But
for 5 or 6 acres.
Yeah, I don't believe 30, I think that's smaller than that. And
Yeah. I think that just the answer.
70 would be the recommendation of staff, just again for the contiguousness with the roadway and because of that curvature that would be required here from this 3875 parcel. I mean, you're kind of at a sharp turn. I guess it would depend, but I mean, it would take more land mass if they wanted to extend in further and curve it differently.
So one clarification on the terms right of way versus asphalt width. They're not the same thing, just to clarify, and that's often not understood. The right of way often includes sidewalk and park strip on the sides, which say in a residential neighborhood, just as an example, I recognize it's not, but you know, that adds approximately 10 feet on both sides, so you're about 20 feet different than what the asphalt width is. And so there's that difference when you're using the term right away. That doesn't mean the asphalt would be 70 feet, but then also as a helpful point of reference, many residential roads are about a 60-foot right of way. We have asphalt width plus curb and gutter plus the additional 8 to 10 feet. So it's not, you know, roads of a similar width are standard in residential subdivisions of a similar width. Right of way width are pretty close to standard in residential subdivisions. So this is not out of the same realm character for the road.
it's not the D is go to the way, it's the 70 right away.
So what did you measure there as the right of way?
And I don't know if I for sure measured it properly, but I think I measured the asphalt width at 45.5, but I am not a traffic engineer, everyone.
No, yeah.
That's the asphalt width, but there is,
Brandon just stated your right of way goes out past the curb and gutter.
You can measure it, it's the right way or that's 50 feet.
No, you're measuring, she was measuring asphalt.
I know, but if you measure the right of way, the public right of way is 50 feet.
Geodismo is the applicant for measuring right.
Okay, so for
Subdivision plats.
Okay, so full disclosure, I live just above the Stonefield area on 1500 where they proposed. And I think one thing is, as much as I would like to not have really much, for those that travel now, it's becoming very congested, and one of the issues is that more people jet on and off of that road. It's becoming more of a traffic nightmare. So I'm always have been for having less connections and having a through road. One of the other things, the dance, it's called there.
Utah's Academy, yeah.
Has really created a huge amount of added traffic down in that area. Not opposed to it, but just having all of the cars flowing in and out of that area all the time. And then when I've seen the trucks are trying to come and go, turn in and out of there. So myself, I prefer to have a longer road, or wider road, and like the idea of having this connecting to eliminate some of the applicants of this. Food for thought.
And if it's helpful with the questions that have been raised, we're happy to pull I mean, the plat map was brought up as an example, but we're happy to pull that as well as measurements prior to making that recommendation forwarded to the city council from the planning commission.
I'm looking at the plat map right now, and it's a 70-foot right of way.
Okay.
So,
And to be fair, just remember, tonight, we're evaluating, just like on the other one, we're evaluating the map, the street map.
Right.
Plan, and that's what we're making a recommendation on. Not necessarily someone coming and saying, hey, we would like to put this here, we'd like to put that there.
Correct.
This will just look at.
This is not a site plan. This is not a subdivision application. This is just and frankly an administration driven request to review.
Any other discussion items or thoughts, or would someone like to make their recommendation?
Everyone's falling asleep. No.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I'll make a motion that we approve it as stated here with the 70-foot right of way in, that we recommend it, yeah, recommend approval, yeah. As with, I don't think there was any condition really.
There's no conditions. It's just a recommendation of approval for a general plan amendment.
Commissioner Woolbrook has made a recommendation to recommend to the city council. We have a second. I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much for coming and participating tonight in this. We have item 4C, this is discussion on land use amendment. We're going to ask that we table tonight and move that to the future later date. That was marked as a public hearing, so we can go ahead and we need to table that officially since the public hearing is going to ask that
we
next week.
Oh, sorry.
This might seem like technicality, I reckon. You can table it, like it's been noticed, so you don't have, I don't think you have to hold it. It would be the opposite situation would be the problem is if you didn't notice it.
So do we need to open a public hearing?
I don't think you need to. Okay.
Just make sure we do it on the next one.
Then the motion to table it then?
There we go.
Yeah.
We have a motion to table, by meetings.
Can I provide, you can finish your motions, but I just want to provide clarification as to the why on tabling.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
It's late for all of us. I will be fast. So the reason why we're recommending tabling, so there are some provisions in the sensitive lands ordinance that are a little bit murky, and it's just really trying to provide some additional clarification. We had understood that part of that was applicable in reading through the language. It's not applicable to a certain site in the city where we anticipated upon multiple applications coming forward to planning commission, which would be a little bit of a cumbersome task. And we're still going to be looking at revising it, but we're able to take a little bit more time and vet through and make sure it's done properly.
That's important, so we appreciate that.
So, can I ask another question?
Yeah.
When we look at the sensitive land study, can you create conservation districts to protect some of those areas, or?
So that's an option. We actually have a working group that we've been working with, I don't know, over the past year and a half. Quite some time, but we've been talking about sensitive lands. The thing that I guess was a little surprising, and your question is absolutely perfect. A lot of the sensitive land regulations are specified specifically to the Pole Patch area. And they don't apply broadly to other areas of the city. And so it's looking at more broad application. And we had thought that there were other pieces that applied more broadly to the city, which is why wanted to bring forward some type of proposal with some DRC review of some different components. But in looking at it, it really, it's quite specific as to where and how it applies. And I think that there may be some need to look at broadening that. So it's just something that you don't want to get wrong.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yes.
So, big discussion on the Sneddon property today. We've had the same discussion with the Christopherson property, same scenario. By my count tonight, there were, I think it was 2 more people that were in favor here present than that were opposing it. Now, then you added the emails that you got, and it was about the same. So 50-50, right? And, some of the comments were, well, we made this general plan back in 2017, which we did. Then COVID happened, and everybody is moving to Utah. You look at what other cities are doing, Salt Lake City just got rid of their residential zone, and now, you can put 4-plex in an R1 zone, or like a 3rd-acre lot zone, okay? So, have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not by any means suggesting that Pleasant View City do that.
Let the record reflect. No.
But you look at people that want to move to Utah, I've moved to Kanab, right?
Heck yes. Thank you.
I love at some point, to me, it feels like, why are we gonna do 4,300 north if development really is never gonna go beyond that, right? Especially that wide of a road, because it's a big road. And hang on. So I guess my question is, now that Utah's growing like crazy. And so when is that next plan amendment gonna be? Or open house that we've talked about, or, have, so that people can kind of give their input? Because I bet it's not so much this anymore, it's probably like this.
Well, that's a really excellent question. So with regards to updating the general plan, that's something on our docket. We actually were looking to pursue some grant funds. Actually, I was looking at submitting an application this week, but was with the group, we were looking to apply through, advised against applying because general plans isn't really something that they cover. But that's something that I would like to work through with city council during the budgeting process to see if we can identify some funds for that update. I feel like that is a critical component. I will say with regards to affordable housing and accessible housing and the moderate income housing and frankly for Pleasant View, the missing middle, we have a committee right now that's comprised of the mayor, Councilmember Gary, Councilmember Arrington, and myself, and we're trying to work through some different possible options, solutions to bring in that component of housing, in addition to meeting our state housing requirements, and there's a lot at play there as well. And so it's not that it's not a forefront of our thinking. I guess we have the general plan that we have and are working with that, and that's not a bad thing either, but the update of that is in progress. And I guess I can't guarantee that changes in outcomes in different areas. I think the tricky thing we're always trying to balance with the housing is keeping the character of the community while also allowing for planned and strategic growth. And
so just one other quick comment, and thanks for that. But it's I suggest you go home and do this, but it's kind of Google Earth. And look at a bird's eye view down on, like, just take like the orchards, for example, and look at the 3rd-acre lot and how nice it looks, truthfully. And then you look at some of the bigger zones, like where you have a 1-acre lot, and you've got trash. And it's really interesting.
just look at it.
I think we're missing a component here though. It's not about what people want, as in more people want to develop. It's really looking out for the welfare of all of the citizens here. Now, 2 years ago, we were patting ourselves on the back. Look how well we have done in preserving the hillside and the recharge areas. They have places all along the Wasatch Front that we're regretting that they have built in the recharge areas. They were short on water. We have a year or two of plenty, and suddenly we forget that we are a desert state and that we rely on our wells and our recharge area. Pleasant View actually came through the drought in much better shape than a lot of cities along the Wasatch Front. And part of that is because we have preserved the bench. Now, Phil Covey, a couple of years ago on the whole Christopherson thing, he was asked the question, so if we put all of these houses up here, is it going to be a problem with water? And his response, and you can look at it in minutes, was no, it's not going to be a problem for them. It's the people downstream, because the people up on the bench will have the water, but as it comes down, it's the people lower that will end up not having water. So I don't look at it, oh, let's preserve, so I think that's important. I'm like, let's look at the natural resources. Let's look at the future and what we need to do to preserve our water.
Very good.
Is this commission convention?
Yes.
You have a comment though, I want to hear.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight, here's the crazy thing. People, Dean, all of us have heard this keeps coming up about 4,300 north, and it's like, and they're not wrong. At some point, it will be developed, but we're actively here, friends. And this is what I've been wanting to do for 8 freaking years. And now we finally have, Ann and I are together. We have Amy, we have everybody on board. We are going to master plan the hillside. That is our goal. Like for real, to make it profitable for developers, but also inhabitable and safety and everything else for people who live here. We don't want to punish them, and we don't want to put anybody else at risk. We want to have open space. It's not logical to have one house for every 5 acres and miles and miles of road when we already have 90 miles of road that we can't even maintain what we've got. Nothing against him. We don't have staff. He needs like twice the staff that he has, and we don't have the money. We just don't. So it's not a matter of ability, but it's a matter of affordability. That's what it always comes down to, is money. And putting houses up there is the impact fees when we begin to pay for the infrastructure that we have to access. We'll not touch it. You and I. We are so far behind on our property taxes and income tax and everything else. It's not even fun.
The highest tax county in the state.
But guess what? We did it. Go look at your property tax. Guess how much Pleasant View gets? On my property tax notice, $170 for my property. That's it. That's all we got for my property. Beaver County School District and everybody else gets a heck of a lot more. So I'm just saying, we're way behind, and it's coming. You're going to get tax increases at some point because we're just so far behind. So the impact won't pay for what it just won't. And so if we get smart about this, which we've been reading about this, and not daybreak, but master plan in the thought of a daybreak, not even to the size of daybreak because we can't handle it. But we want open space, we want conservation easements, we want biking trails, we want access to the mountains, we want cluster development in all the areas that can be clustered. We want to look at the sensitive areas, and talking to developers, if you get a different mindset of, oh, hey, that would still be profitable for them, that would provide them the same middle, that would provide home ownership, that would make the less of an impact on the residents who live here and the maintenance of the roads and things that we have. So again, we'll look at areas that can handle way less than one house for every 5 acres. Way less. Probably more like what they're talking about in certain areas. But other areas, we need to have bigger areas.
And then other areas you don't touch because it needs to be maintained in zone, but if you put a conservation easement, guess what, the developer gets money. They get the profitability from that conservation easement, the city doesn't. And so it's a win-win, and then you have access to the mountain, you have access to biking trails, you have access to the clean drinking water that we all depend on. So talking out there, meeting together, we're already meeting together with certain developers who are on this team.
And we are applying for a grant to help us
Yes.
with the master plan of
Our
that.
Public Works Director, all of us are meeting together to do this smart, so we won't have to hear these applications and go, no, that's not gonna work, because it won't, in the way that you're thinking about it. So let's think proactively, let's get this done, so that we can take care of our hillside and the residents who live here. Right? Right. Ask Sean, he knows what I'm talking about, this guy's. Anyway. I think that sounds good. And we're also talking about patio homes, we actually are. Hey.
Still active. I was just gonna say that our master plan was done based on engineering, based on our supply and demand of water and our supply and demand of sewer. Speaking of Tyson, the particular parcel we were talking about tonight was built to accommodate, let's just use a pipe, for example. That pipe was designed to handle 30 homes. And if we would have approved the 820, then we would have had more than 100.
Homes potentially.
Right. So, and.
Yes,
and
on 134 acres times 2. 134 acres times 2.
Either way, you're putting more than the 30 homes that it was designed to hold. And it's not a problem for the hill, it's a problem.
Anyway, it couldn't handle it.
We couldn't handle it downstream, and then you've got the same problem with water supply. We have a water supply that's designed for 30 homes, and we put in 100 or 300, we're screwing ourselves without realizing it. And so, like, what she's talking about and what he's talking about is what should have been said tonight was, don't bring us a plat that shows us that you want to build 18 homes. Bring us a plat that says you want to build 35 homes, a cluster, and you want to do something more special with the other 200 acres or whatever you have left, because that wouldn't overburden what we already designed for, what we've already planned for, right?
Well, and what Dean's saying, can I interject this for a second, or do you want to finish?
Yeah,
that?
I don't think we're in a corner or anything.
We're still flying.
We're still.
Well, just the other thought with what you're saying is that has to be part of the master planning of the hillside is our adequate facilities, is our stormwater, is our infrastructure, and how would we pay for it? How would we make it look so that we could handle higher density? It would be an all-inclusive plan with that updating the general plan when we have that together. It would be all moving parts together so the general plan's updated, infrastructure plan's updated, everything's updated, and the master plan for the hillside is done so that it benefits everything that you're saying.
Okay, I'm gonna bring it back.
Sorry, it wasn't finished, sorry.
We really appreciate all the comments, everybody being here tonight. But I'm gonna, since Sean's on overtime, this is an expensive bill, I want to get that. I was just gonna say, let's see if staff has anything else.
I have one thing, but it's not something we really need to discuss, and I should be allowed to speak. I appreciate that. We have the city's annual holiday gift for each of you over here. That's American Notebook pads. So I'm gonna pass those out, right? You see how uniting that issue was?
Well, that was good. Now I'm gonna do something else. Yes, just really quickly, just in anticipation for your next meeting. We've been working as a committee with staff and with an attorney that we have helping us on subdivision ordinance amendments. So there's requirements with Utah code to make changes to the way some of the decisions are made with some housing elements. And so we're breaking that out, but also while the opportunity is ripe, we're doing a lot of cleanup in our subdivision ordinance to try to make it simpler to digest and read. And so that'll be a big item coming for your next agenda. Sorry.
With that, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Let me finish this comment.
thank you, everybody.